work. I got to know Marty Schottenheimer when he worked here at ESPN for a brief time before he went to Washington. He was a gentleman. He was a family man. His son, Brian, has been a football coach for a very long time. He was surrounded by his loving family, and he was one of the kindest and most interesting and hardest working people that you could ever meet. I recall when he would come and work in the morning, he would bring a blank legal pad and at our morning meeting. And by the end of the day, that thing was filled up with notes of things that he had observed and things that he wanted to teach. And nobody loved football, and no one was more interesting to talk about it with than Marty Schottenheimer, again, whom we have lost today at the age of 77. I want to bring Jeff and Marcus in here. Jeff, just a thought, if you will. Marty Schottenheimer, again, dies yesterday in Charlotte at the age of 77.
Yeah, you said it so well. Just a true gentleman, a great competitor. He coached like he played, hard nosed. You heard about, you heard about Marty Ball. You know, he wanted to be physical, play tough in the trenches, and every time you went to go play against his opponents, you knew they were going to be well coached, but they were going to be classy. And I have so much respect for what you said about being a family man, a true teacher of our game, which we need so much of, and not only a teacher of football, but a teacher of how to handle yourself outside in the community. And he served us so well. He's going to be missed for sure.
Marcus, you ever thought Marty Schottenheimer?
Yeah, it's amazing, G. I actually had a chance to sit with Coach Schottenheimer for an hour and a half and break down film on my draft visit to San Diego when he was the head coach with the Chargers in 2005. And that was when they were transitioning to the 3-4 along with the Dallas Cowboys. And myself and DeMarcus Ware were two prospects that they were looking at, along with Sean Merriman and Luis Castillo, who they ended up drafting both of those guys. And Coach Schottenheimer, just in that meeting, he pulled up some plays. Specifically, I remember one from the Arkansas game when I was at LSU and I ran down the running back like 30, 40 yards downfield. He was like, "Is this the guy that I'm going to get in San Diego?" I said, "Coach, turn on the film from all the games. You'll see the same guy." And he said, "I know. That's why you're on a visit." He said, "Good luck to you in the draft." So I'm leaving there thinking I'm going to San Diego. It's final. Coach Schottenheimer told me he'd come and get me. So they ended up drafting Sean Merriman and Luis Castillo, and the Cowboys with Bill Parcells drafted DeMarcus Ware at 11 and me at 20. So I see Coach Schottenheimer the following year when we played the San Diego Chargers, and I asked him, I said, "Coach, how you think that draft worked out with your 2, 3, 4 guys versus me and D. Ware?" He said, "Well, I sure love to have that big butt on my defensive line stopping the run like you've been doing in Dallas." So, man, he was just a good guy, man. You understood that he cared about football, and every player that played for him loved playing for him. Told me he was tough, hard-nosed, but they expected to win when Coach Schottenheimer was on the sideline. So just feel grateful to have had some time with him throughout my draft process.
His career will be remembered a lot for some very heartbreaking losses. He was the coach in Cleveland for their legendary losses in the late 80s, the drive and the fumble, and then some very difficult losses, home playoff losses in Kansas City and then in San Diego. But he was a man who was not defined by winning or losing in football games. He was a really genuinely good man who was loved by the entire football community. So again, the sad news today, at the age of 77, Marty Schottenheimer has died. We will have more coverage of this, of course, as the day continues. And we send our thoughts to his family, including his son, Brian, who has been a coach around the NFL for a very long time. We make the transition from that back to the football news of the day. And Coach Bruce Arians was talking about the impact that Tom Brady had on turning this team from a 7-9 squad into world champions. Here's what the coach had to say.
This was a very, very talented football team last year, but we really didn't know how to win. And when you bring a winner in and he's running the ship, it makes a total difference in your locker room. And knowing that he'd been there and done it, our guys believed it, and it changed our entire football team.
So this to me is fascinating, because we'll hear that sometimes about not just Brady, he may be the greatest ever at it, but that players come in and it changes the culture, it changes the way things work. Well, Jeff Saturday can tell us exactly what that means with the story that you were telling me this morning. Jeff, it's fascinating.
Yeah, Yeah, so listen, I know some coaches down there who coach in Indianapolis, and we've been talking all season about Tom Brady and some stories that kind of give you great examples of what he's talking about. How do you change culture? Well, they're on the bus. I think it was your Thursday or Friday of this week. This is Super Bowl week, right, Greeny? Like, you're leading up to the most intense game in most of these guys' career, not for Tom, but for everybody else. And they're back in the bus, and somebody makes the comment to Tom and Gronk about, hey, how does it feel being in your first Super Bowl without scandal? You know what I mean? Like, without any issues. And they said both those guys laugh and they love it, and they look back and like, how does it feel to be in your first ever playoff win? You know what I mean? So the banter going back and forth is just a thing of beauty, and that humility that he plays with and that he kind of ingratiates to his teammates is just fantastic. And then they talked about like the serious side of Tom Brady, right? That when Antonio Brown came to the organization, to the Buccaneers midway through the season now, and they had some struggles midway, it was Tom who goes and picks him up. It's Tom who lets him stay in his home and talks about, you know, hey man, you got to be part of this family. Leonard Fournette, who we know left Jacksonville under some issues, right, is he brings Fournette into the fold and talks about, hey Leonard, man, if you run your route like this, you know, if you're swinging out of the backfield this way, there's nobody in the world that can cover you. You're too good. You're too physical. As the season progressed and he became a bigger part of this offense, you know, Tom encouraged him in those things. And I think it's the both and in those scenarios, that he's just one of the guys, that he's not an NFL superstar quarterback who's got too many things going on that he can't go get with his teammates. It's those things, Greeny, that change the culture in organizations. And like you said, when Bruce Arians said, hey, he's a winner, he's done this before. No, he hadn't done it before. He's done it 7 times, right? Winning it, not getting there, been there 10. How important is that? How much credibility does that give that man in that locker room, and how everybody else pulls off of that? Man, just incredible stories, and that's the defining moment of who Tom Brady is.
And Marcus, you understand the dynamics of a locker room as well as anybody, and just how important that kind of stuff is, and that is one big reason why the Buccaneers are where they are right now.
Absolutely, the believability. Gee, I think what Jeff said is a part of what we understand leadership to be. Not only, look, the main priority is winning in that league. Like, I don't want people to get it twisted. You could be all the leader you want to be, but if you're not out there doing your job at a high level, the words are just not falling on people's ears the same. And the fact that you have a guy that's going to come in where you know you can win with. You don't hope to win with him. You know you can win with him. All of the moves that were made, all of the things that he saw that they needed in order to win a championship, it was actually reaffirming to everyone else why Tom Brady has had the amount of success that he's had. Everybody plays with a little more juice when you have that guy. Everyone, it permeates through the whole team, the coaching staff, the people that work in the support staff. It changes the dynamic of everything when you know you can win, as opposed to hoping you can get the job done. And that's what Tom Brady provides more than anything.
It's fascinating. So those are some of the intangibles, and it was nice to be able to put examples to them. Meanwhile, Dan Graziano, there is one very tangible thing that Tom Brady can and maybe has to do almost immediately if this team is going to get back to the same place again next year. What is that?
Well, they could extend his contract. I mean, he's signed through 2021. It's a fully guaranteed $25 million. If they do an extension, even just a one-year extension that would take him into his age 45 season, where he says he wants to be, they could save about, you know, the way that Buccaneers do contracts with roster bonuses instead of signing bonuses, they could save about $7 million on this year's cap. And you're looking at, I mean, every dollar is going to count. Chris Godwin is a free agent. Shaquille Barrett is a free agent. Levante David is a free agent. They have work to do to keep this roster together. So I would not be surprised at all to see the Buccaneers extend Tom Brady's contract for cap purposes, and potentially because he wants to be there more than the initial 2 years. Man, that Jeff Saturday story, though, I mean, the 4 guys that the 4 touchdowns in the Super Bowl were scored by guys that Tom Brady made them sign, right? Fournette and Gronk and AB. Like, but just like, not just we need to get this guy, but AB, we need to get this